Gin does games!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Gin here with another League of Legends Champion Guide. Today we discuss the Stuff of Nightmares, a figure that haunts the fields and kills with the very crows he is meant to ward away. This is of course Fiddlesticks, the Harbinger of Doom. Sharpen your sights, my friends, the reaping is about to begin. It's time to learn how to Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks is a mid-ranged ability power mage, bringing to the field a suite of powerful crowd control, single target damage, area of effect damage, and surprise initiation. He is used primarily as a jungler, but can also support or take a solo lane if necessary, if only so we can say that there's a fiddle in the middle. To begin, his passive is Dread. All nearby enemies have their magic resistance reduced by 10. This is different from magic penetration in that it can reduce magic resistance below 0. This increases the power of Fiddlesticks' spells in all situations, while jungling, while laning, and while teamfighting. Not only that, it makes the other casters on your team stronger too. There's nothing on your enemies to show that they are affected by Dread, but it does appear on their buff bar, even if they can't see you. This is important to note if you're trying to gank. If you get too close, smart enemies might notice the debuff and realize you're nearby. The Harbingers Queue is Terrify. It's a simple, awesome piece of crowd control. He fills a single target with fear. Fear causes the target to move about randomly while slowed for a short period. In the case of champions, that means the player completely loses control for the duration. At rank 1, it's only a second long, but at max rank, it's a full 3 seconds, effectively shutting down a target for the full duration. This is extremely powerful in any sort of fight, either keeping a target in place for a gank or locking a carry out of a fight. If you plan on doing a lot of ganking and the lanes you go to have high damage, or if in particular you're playing as a jungler or support, you should probably max this out first. Next up, his W is Drain. Fiddlesticks spreads his arm and leashes himself to a target to suck out their life force like a mosquito with a bendy straw. He deals magic damage to the target every half second for 5 seconds, healing himself for a percentage of that damage each time he hits. Fiddlesticks cannot do anything while he's draining a target, but the target can move freely. If Fiddlesticks does try to do anything else, be it cast a different spell or move about, he will stop draining and do that instead. Since this is a channeled spell, just like any other, it can be cancelled midway with stuns, silences, knockups, or anything else of that nature. To prevent that, of course, we have the already apparent combo of Terrify into Drain. A crow-fearing enemy can do nothing but wander aimlessly while you suck out its delicious juices. Drain is extremely powerful against any single target, and is his most potent jungling tool to boot, allowing him to shamble his way through the jungle without taking any damage worth mentioning. It can eventually allow him to tank and even solo dragon all by himself. It's also worth noting that the leash range on Drain is longer than the actual casting range, at least half again as long. Even as enemies try to run away, you can still continue draining them a bit longer. It will even keep going if the enemy becomes untargetable. For maximum damage in a fight, you should max this out first. Regardless though, you should generally take this as your first ability point, especially if you're jungling. Fiddlesticks' E is Dark Wind. He summons a single crow to throw at an enemy. It then bounces randomly 5 times to other nearby targets, sometimes even back to the original. The target is silenced for 1.2 seconds and dealt magic damage for each time it hits them. Minions take 50% extra damage from Dark Wind, making it somewhat useful for getting last hits as well. Dark Wind is an excellent bit of long-range poke and a powerful spell in the middle of a teamfight, potentially silencing everyone. While this is all well and good, the damage on Dark Wind is rather weak, and since the bouncing is random, it's still rather difficult to last hit with beyond the first target. Generally, one should take a point in this one early so as to have an awesome silencing spell, and max it out last for later game damage. And finally, the ultimate, the Crowstorm. Crowstorm has 2 parts to it. First, after choosing a target location, he stands still and channels for 1.5 seconds. Then, he teleports to the targeted spot with a full-on murder of crows around him, dealing tons of damage to any and all nearby enemies for the next 5 seconds. During this second portion, he can do whatever he wants, waltzing through his enemies and casting spells with an aura of death all around him. Crowstorm is an extremely powerful initiation tool, allowing Fiddlesticks to appear seemingly from nowhere to crush one champion or even the whole enemy team. Pentakills for everyone. As with any channeled spell, it could potentially be cancelled during the initial channeling portion, but after that, once he's free and walking around again, it cannot be cancelled. The only recourse is to run in terror or try to fight back. His ultimate brings Fiddlesticks from simply being good to being awesome. Take a point in it every chance you can. Fiddlesticks tends to scale really well with ability power, but has a bit of trouble with mana throughout the game. So, for runes, I take magic penetration marks, scaling mana regeneration seals, scaling ability power glyphs, and flat ability power quintessences. If I'm jungling though, I trade in those mana regeneration seals for flat armor ones, as I should have a blue buff to take care of my mana issues, and instead want a less damaging jungle clear. For Masteries, it is worthy of note that Fiddlesticks can clear the jungle with pretty much anything. For maximum efficiency in most lanes and the jungle though, I recommend 2109 or 2118 if you want the Smite Mastery, getting maximum ability power, a bit of movement speed, and some mana regen. The defenses can be ignored fairly well because of how awesome Drain is. In a more supporting mode though, he can just as easily go 9021, taking maximum cooldown reduction, speed, mana regen, and some spell vamp to capitalize on his spells more. For summoner spells, Flash is recommended the vast majority of the time. Every so often, you can just completely miss your targets with Crowstorm. Happens to everyone, or maybe they just flash away. Well, getting Flash yourself allows you to close those gaps instantly. Exhaust is a potential option, especially as a support to increase your set of crowd control spells even more. Ignite in a solo lane allows you to crush targets faster. Lastly, Smite is standard if you're jungling, as always. Items are fairly straightforward for Fiddlesticks, but there's still a reasonable chunk of flexibility available to you. To start in the jungle, you can use either a Hunter's Machete, Amplifying Tome, or a Doran's Ring. Either of that latter two are a reasonable start in lane as well, and you might grab multiple Doran's Rings throughout the early game for early power and mana sustain. Similarly, for mana sustain, you might start with a Fairy Charm as a support. Fiddlesticks has little use for health potions since he has Drain, so you might instead start with maybe a mana potion and a ward for a machete start. The machete itself can eventually become Spirit of the Spectral Wraith, granting you massive cooldown reduction and some awesome spell vamp to stack onto Drain and your other spells. If you don't need it though, the Hextech Revolver portion could also become a Will of the Ancients, as spell vamp is very powerful on Fiddlesticks. If you start with Amplifying Tome, it's probably to rush for a Zhonya's Hourglass as quickly as possible. This item is very much essential on Fiddlesticks. Hopping into a fight with Crowstorm is likely to get you focused, so activating Zhonya's will keep you safe. Once the channel is over and you've made the hop, your aura can't be cancelled till it's over, so the damage will keep on going while you remain safe and sound in your golden prison. For shoes, consider either Sorcerer's Shoes or Boots of Mobility. The former will give you extra damage, while the latter will get you from one place to the other faster while you try to gank and such. That support start of a Fairy Charm can go a few different ways. It can of course become a Philosopher's Stone and then a Shirelia's Reverie while chasing and the like. However, and you can take both if you want, it could also turn into a Shard of True Ice. This would help solve Fiddle's mana problems and grant him yet more crowd control. You could always cast it on yourself as well, slowing your enemies in the middle of your ultimate so that they can't escape. In a similar manner, Rylai's Crystal Scepter adds a slow to your ult, but to all of your other spells as well, while giving you more health to drain back. Rabadon's Death Cap is a fantastic choice for Fiddlesticks in all situations. Efficient, powerful, and sufficiently spooky looking to boot. Liandry's Torment, Deathfire Grasp, and the Morellonomicon will all also provide considerable boosts to your power given the right situations. On the more defensive side of things, Abyssal Scepter gives you great tankiness and stacks with your Dread passive for a total of 30 magic resist reduction. Athene's Unholy Grail solves all your mana problems in one fell swoop, all while granting more damage and defense. Spirit Visage is purely defensive, but provides cooldown reduction and, most importantly, stacks exceedingly well with Drain to make him one crazy Drain tank. Lastly, it is well known that Fiddlesticks' abilities can be easily cancelled, as both Drain and Crowstorm run on channels. Banshee's Veil can block at least one of the enemy's attempts to cancel your spells, hopefully giving you enough time to finish what you're doing. Speaking of Crowstorm, it's very important that you get your spell order correct when initiating so that you both do maximum damage and not die instantly. Once Crowstorm has hopped you into the enemy team, cast Dark Wind to silence their attempts to fight back, terrify your target of choice, and then begin draining. Drain must always come last in this order of operations, lest you accidentally cancel it. If you have Zhonya's Hourglass, be ready and prepared to activate it should you notice they start to attack you back. Regardless of all of this though, the Crowstorm itself is always your highest source of damage. If you have to make a choice between keeping your Drain going or cancelling it to chase and keep the enemy in the storm, cancel and chase away, always. On a related note, Crowstorm being available changes how you should play the game considerably. Not only does it massively increase the power of your ganks, it affects your positioning throughout the team fighting phase. Position yourself over walls away from your team so that the enemy doesn't suspect your presence. Place yourself within easy jumping distance. Be as aware as possible of the enemy's vision. If they see you, well, the element of surprise is entirely lost. Try and catch as many enemies as possible in the storm. Drain is powerful throughout the game and can allow you to stay out on the field when many others could not. No health but lots of mana? Cool. Find a siege minion or any large jungle creep and boom, full health. It can help you steal enemy jungle camps, leaving only the weak and useless ones for them to take. As a jungler, always start with it. Take Darkwind second, and either another point in Drain if you plan to continue your jungle route, or Terrify if you plan to gank immediately. His ganks are weak prior to level 6, but Terrify is no slouch of a spell if your allies have sufficient damage and snares to help. Fiddlesticks has two big problems otherwise. The first is mana. Early on, his mana is absolutely terrible, which is one reason Doran's Rings, or multiple Doran Rings, are so great for him early. As a jungler, he is very much reliant on the blue buff to clear quickly, at least the first time. The second blue buff is optional, but still highly desirable. When starting in the jungle, be very careful of those invading you. The blue buff is your precious. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. His other problem is last hitting. Fiddlesticks is terribly difficult to last hit with. His basic attack is slow and clunky with a slow-moving projectile. Drain, while powerful, has no guarantee of getting the final blow. Dark Wind, while it does a lot of extra damage to minions, is unreliable in the way it bounces, often hurting your chances of last hitting the whole wave more than helping. This is why he is so well suited for jungling. Just be very wary of this if you choose to have a fiddle in the middle and practice like crazy. Land those Crowstorms and time your skills properly, and this fear-crazy mage can lead you to victory. With that, thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this guide, please let me know by hitting the like button. Speak up in the comments below if you have advice or questions. We're all here to learn. Subscribe for future content, including champion guides, gameplay guides, and other possibly not LOL content. Follow me on Twitch for streams, and Twitter and Facebook to see what else is going on. Till next time, I've been Gin, and you've been watching me talk about a video game. Go forth and conquer.
To our end.
Alt over the wall and your team scatters like Godzilla's attacking. I terrify you, carry and result, your damage is lacking.